What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Vince McMahon's 3 brains, Vince's comments on Chris Benoit, Austin denies CTE, WWE blogs TNA star, AJ Styles' WWE career is nearly over, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new videos on Wrestlelamia XL. Now let's do the intro and get straight into our first story. Now our first story looks at all the fallout from the Mr. McMahon docuseries. As top of today's news is the fallout from the Netflix's Mr. McMahon series, including some frankly bonkers statements from people interviewed for the 6-part series. The first is McMahon's 3 brains. Vince McMahon made sensational statements in the documentary, including one where he discussed multiple brains. I have not 2 different brains, but like computers in my head, and sometimes they work against me. I have one computer talking to you right now, and there's another one thinking about something completely different. It's unknown whether McMahon was referring to the concept of multitasking or something else. Regardless, he also discussed a 3rd brain/computer. And then there's a 3rd one sometimes. It's difficult for me to pay attention to things. It's bothered me because all I wanted to do was be normal. I wanted to fit in, but I deal with it. During the interview, Vince was asked about his 3rd brain and what it's doing, leading to this intriguing reply. Something having a lot of fun, and it's involving sex. While we aren't going to focus on the 3rd brain, McMahon's comments may help fans understand why he was known for making so many last-minute changes to WWE programming when he ran creative. Although Vince may believe his brain can multitask, repeated studies have shown that true multitasking, doing 2 or more tasks simultaneously, can lead to decreased efficiency. Next up, Vince's comments on Chris Benoit. The McMahon documentary included a wealth of interesting comments from Vince McMahon about the WWE's most controversial moment, including the Chris Benoit tragedy. However, what does McMahon think led to Benoit's crimes? There is no correlation between taking steroids and what happened to Chris Benoit. Human beings are flawed. Chris went nuts. It happens in every form of life and everything, so that's the only thing I can take away from it. We've covered steroids and Chris Benoit's crimes in our Behind the Titans series, but hearing Vince's opinion on things is kind of fascinating, whether it's about steroids or CTE. The doctor came up with this ridiculous statement of, okay, here is why Chris Benoit did this. There was some sort of trauma to his head. Things were shown where Chris would dive off the rope and hit someone with his head. That's a complete work. It looks like there's damage, and there's not. We know what we're doing. We don't hurt each other. As fans know, wrestlers have attested many times as the risks to wrestlers are very real, regardless of the industry's work nature. While we won't question whether McMahon is being truthful or deceitful, the WWE's wellness policy and concussion protocol confirm that injuries do happen despite wrestlers protecting each other. But as we're about to see, McMahon isn't the only person in wrestling who has a controversial take on CTE and professional wrestling. As next up, Steve Austin denies CTE. Another interesting takeaway from the Vince McMahon series is a remarkable statement from Stone Cold Steve Austin, who shared his thoughts on CTE. Fans have seen the term used to discuss the disturbing number of concussions some wrestlers have suffered and how it may have led to CTE. According to the Mayo Clinic, CTE is a brain disorder likely caused by repeated head injuries. It causes the death of nerve cells in the brain known as degeneration. CTE gets worse over time. The problem with CTE is that the only way to confirm is an autopsy. The condition is believed to cause a variety of problems, including cognitive impairment, behavioral changes, mood disorders, and motor symptoms. The WWE Hall of Famer discussed his experiences with injuries in wrestling and what he thinks of CTE. I worked for a long time. I got dropped on my head one time, I got concussed there. But other than that, I can't remember having too many concussions in the business of pro wrestling. My take on that has always been, if you're just wrestling and you got a bunch of concussions, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm not a CTE guy, I just don't believe in it. Although Austin is entitled to his opinion, there is a wealth of scientific evidence supporting CTE as a legitimate medical condition, including evidence collected from the brains of people who've reportedly had CTE, long-term studies, and clearly defined symptoms specific to CTE. One has to look no further than the lawsuit between NFL players and the NFL that addressed the issue of concussions and CTE to know it's a legitimate concern. What do you think on Austin's take? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, WWE blogs at TNA stars Trademark. Will Anthony Corelli, aka former superstar Santino Marella, be able to trademark his Santino Marella name now that the WWE is opposing the move? A new report from Inside the Ropes explored the complicated case. TNA fans saw Corelli return to TNA in the role of an authority figure, and apparently the trademark for Santino Marella expired. And with the trademark on the name expiring, Impact's parent company Anthem first applied for the trademark back in December 2022. which remains pending at the time of writing. However, the trademark is now up in the air, as WWE recently filed a request on September 19th to extend their opposition to the trademark by 90 days, which was granted by the USPTO. The promotion has filed the objection to maintain control of its IP. Although the WWE is working with TNA with talent exchanges, it appears that the company isn't giving away its intellectual property rights. As we've noted before, companies have to guard their IP or risk losing it. Here, the WWE may feel it has a strong enough claim to the Santino Marella name that it has the right to ownership. That doesn't mean that WWE will keep the IP, but may use it as a bargaining chip with Marella, depending on how badly he wants it. Next up is Shane McMahon appearing at Grand Slam. And now it's time for news concerning a different McMahon, that being Shane McMahon. There have been rumors for months that Shane McMahon might work in AEW, and now fans are looking at tonight's Grand Slam episode of Dynamite as a good jumping off point for Shane Mac. Ringside News recently commented on a report from WrestleVote's Q&A about whether Shane will work in AEW. While there were no clear signs that he was heading to AEW, WrestleVotes noted that since this week's Dynamite Grand Slam will be held in Shane McMahon's hometown, there's a chance he could make an appearance. Shane grabbed fans' attention when he broke news of him and Tony Khan meeting to discuss wrestling, with a photo of the meeting leading to fans believe there might be a collab between the two. So far nothing has been confirmed, but that hasn't kept fans from buzzing about the speculation. A one-time appearance by Shane Mac could pop interest in AEW, which has been taking a beating in the ratings department for over a year. AEW has some exciting new storylines, including Jon Moxley's bid to dethrone Bryan Danielson after Mox tried to end Danielson at AEW's last pay-per-view. However, there's considerable debate about whether Shane Mac could help AEW in the long term. Like any new star, he's certain to bump the ratings, but AEW's atrocious history of properly using new talent makes long-term success very unlikely. Next up, AJ Styles' WWE career nearly over. Now it's time for an update on AJ Styles' status in WWE. You may recall a recent story that noted that Styles has been busy at WWE live events despite being off TV. While there were reportedly plans for the Phenomenal One to return earlier this summer, that hasn't happened. But now WrestleVotes is reporting that Styles' career is in its twilight and that creative hasn't worked out anything for him. AJ is ready to start winding down a little bit. While the WWE may have no current plans for this 47-year-old superstar, his recent program with Cody Rhodes reminded fans that he can still deliver main event level matches through promos and in the ring. Styles has talked about retiring from the ring after his WWE deal expires, but it's unclear if he wants to remain in wrestling, work behind the scenes, or in some other capacity. His status in the WWE reminds us of the large number of superstars under contract who are either underutilized or not used at all. Given TKO Holdings' laser-like focus on cost-cutting, one has to ask how long it will take before WWE is forced to make a decision about its bloated roster. Next up, WWE's long-term plan for Bad Blood Stipulation. Was a recently announced stipulation for 5th October's Bad Blood a last-minute decision? The WWE's next PLE is fast approaching, with the universe looking forward to the Hell in a Cell match between Punk and McIntyre. However, that's not the only stipulation, as WWE announced on Raw that Dominic Mysterio will be suspended above the ring in a shark cage during Liv Morgan's Women's World Championship defense against Ripley. While the stipulation was just announced, PW Insider is reporting that WWE planned it months ago. While the stipulation is rarely used, it's a great way to create the illusion that a wrestler or manager is neutralized from interfering in the match, but as fans have seen, things don't always work out as planned. And finally, Mercedes Mone shoots on the Mr. McMahon series. Last but not least is Mercedes Mone, aka former superstar Sasha Banks, watching the recently released Mr. McMahon documentary. During an appearance on WFAN, Mone was asked about the new series, responding, "I haven't been talking to anybody. I stay in my locker room and stay in my lane. All I do know is I'm grabbing a blunt, I'm gonna get some wine, and I'm gonna be watching some Netflix. I can't wait." Fans will be eager to hear what wrestlers have to say about their new series, especially former talent. But there you have it, folks, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.